Crime, Wine, and Chaos contains adult language and graphic content. Listener discretion is advised.
Big wheels keep on turning, Chaos Kids. Blah, blah, blah. I'm Amber. Fuck. I was like, what? What are you looking at? What is she looking at? I'm Amber.
Oh proud boy. Mary, keep on burning. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm Naomi. Mm-hmm. And this is Crime, Wine, and so much fucking chaos.
God. Sorry.
You know what, sister? Hi, sis. You know, you get a pass. You are not at 100%. I would say you're probably at about like 72% right now.
That's generous. I don't even know if I've cleared 50. I can't say that I've cleared 50 today.
Oh, you guys, Amber got food poisoning. She's still recovering. She just had her first meal in 2 days, like right before we started recording, and poor thing. Yeah. I feel so bad for you.
I feel bad for me too.
You should. God. It's bad.
I said recently, I summoned this. I said recently that I've never had food poisoning.
Now you know.
Ooh.
What it's really about.
It's terrible.
It's so bad.
Oh my God. Never again.
People say they got food poisoning and really they just got like an upset stomach because they ate something shitty. But like food poisoning is a whole other level and it's not the same. No. And it's so
Your
bad.
Your body will purge the demons.
Purge the demons.
And even when the demons are out, your body will just to be sure, we're going to keep purging.
It's like aftershocks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was drinking water just so I would have something to purge.
Right. Well, I'm glad you're alive.
I think I'm glad I'm alive. I mean, sure. Thank you.
So that's what's been going on with you.
That's what's going on with me. What about you?
Well, I made a big announcement right before we got on the air, yes. But I found a place and I'm going to be moving soon and, contingents and all that. But I'm excited.
I'm excited for you.
It's going to be
further
amazing.
Away than I didn't vote for that. You didn't ask me about that. So
well, you also didn't pitch in any funds so I could stay closer. So
I'm sorry. That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
When you're buying something outright.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do know.
It's a whole other game.
Yeah.
So no one's given me a loan, sister.
Well, I mean, sure.
That's not happening. Ever. That's never. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're drinking water.
I'm drinking water. Covered. Yeah. That's it. That's the best I can do.
Why don't we get this party started, sister?
Okay, great.
Since you're, at maybe 50%.
That's
apparently.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Why don't I tell you a crime then?
Okay, great. Please.
Okay, we're gonna go back to the 80s.
Good decade.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you about Carolyn Warmus.
Okay.
Yeah. January 15th, 1989, 7:15 p.m. A call comes in to 911. The telephone operator working the phone line in Westchester, New York that night answered New York telephone. They didn't have an actual switchboard yet.
Oh, geez.
She immediately heard screaming on the other end of the line. Quote, she says, "Can I help you? Can I help you?" And the reply from the caller was quick and only said once, "He's trying to kill me."
Oh.
The voice sounded like a woman. The number was identified and police were notified. Using the reverse directory, police obtained an address and sent a unit out to check on the residence.
Mm-hmm.
Police arrived at the residence and found nothing amiss. It must have been a prank or something. At 11:42 p.m., the phone rang at the Village of Scarsdale Police Department. And when the dispatcher answered, a man said, "It's my wife. I think she's dead. I need help. My name is Paul Solomon. She's not moving. She's covered with blood. Please hurry." The man was frantic, but Paul had called the wrong police department. The Scarsdale Ridge apartments where Paul and his wife lived were actually located in Greenburgh. The dispatcher notified the Greenburgh police, who sent units to the scene. When the cops arrived, they found Paul extremely distraught. He was nervous, excited, and looked very scared. Later, Paul would say, quote, "I got home. The first thing I heard was the TV on very loud. I walked into the living room. The lights were out. I noticed that Betty Jean was on the floor. I assumed she was asleep. I touched her and she was cold. I went and turned the lights on. I turned her over and there was blood. I thought she had fallen and hit her head."
Oh, and this was like 4 hours after that first call, right?
8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, about 4 hours
Okay.
later. The police took in the scene. Lying on the living room floor in a wide pool of fresh blood, her head away from the door, was the body of Betty Jean Solomon. She was laying face down and appeared to have been shot several times. There were obvious bullet holes in her back and leg. The room appeared undisturbed, and there were no signs of any type of struggle. There were no signs of forced entry. Nothing had been stolen. The TV was on, and the volume was high. A phone receiver was lying on the floor just out of reach of Betty Jean's hand. The phone jack was unplugged from the wall. Detectives and forensics arrived to launch into the investigation of what was clearly a murder. 6 .25 caliber shell casings were found at the scene, and a superficial examination of Betty Jean's body revealed that she had been shot at least 8 times.
Oh my God.
Her autopsy would reveal she was actually shot 9 times and had a head injury assumed to be from the butt of the gun. Husband Paul was at a neighbor's apartment and gave his initial statement to detectives there. Paul told the detectives that afternoon, Paul and Betty Jean were home together watching television reruns. Kristen, their 14-year-old daughter, was away on a weekend ski trip with friends. Paul had no plans that night other than to relax in front of the television and catch up on some reading. At 1:37 p.m., the phone rang in the kitchen. When Paul answered it, he was pleasantly surprised to learn that it was a former colleague of his. The two spoke for almost an hour and made plans to meet up at the bowling alley that evening. When Paul returned to the living room, he told Betty Jean that he was going bowling that night. Later that afternoon, or perhaps early evening, Paul hooked up a battery charger to his car, a 1983 Toyota Celica, in the garage. A battery charger usually takes a few hours to fully charge, so when Paul left that night around 6:30 p.m. for his impromptu bowling plans, it was in Betty Jean's car, a 1988 Dodge. Detectives immediately suspected Paul. I mean, the husband did it.
Right.
They wanted to dig in on his version of events more deeply and brought him down to the station to ask more questions. It was then that Paul was more honest with detectives about his evening. The friend that had called him to come out for the night was Carolyn Warmus, and he didn't meet her at the bowling alley for a night at the lanes. He did go to the Brunswick lanes at first. He arrived there a few minutes after leaving the apartment. It was less than 5 miles away. He bowled at Brunswick pretty regularly and knew a lot of people there. When he got there, he saw some friends and made a point to say hello. Then he sat for a few minutes and watched the game. Then at 7:15 p.m., Paul left the bowling alley and drove a few more minutes away to Treetops, the restaurant at the Holiday Inn in Yonkers. He walked in, took a seat at the bar, ordered a drink, and waited for Carolyn.
This douche. Also, I always remember Yonkers from My Favorite Murder. The first time that they ever learned that there was a place called Yonkers, they were laughing so hard at the name of this city. Yonkers.
You'd never heard of Yonkers before?
That was the first time I'd heard of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. For some reason, I've always, I don't know it. I don't remember a time when I didn't know that there was a place called
You've
Yonkers
always been a
in New York.
Yonker. I understand.
I feel like something I used to watch as a kid either took place in Yonkers or made reference to Yonkers, you know?
Yeah.
I can't remember now, though. At about 7:45 p.m., Carolyn arrived and joined Paul at the bar for the next hour. They sat together and enjoyed several rounds of drinks. Then the two moved to a table where they ordered their meals and drank for about 2 hours. Whenever the waitress glanced at the table, she saw the couple absorbed in a deep conversation. Paul would later testify in court that he and Carolyn talked about their future. Quote, "She said it was difficult finding good people to date. I said I would be so happy to dance at your wedding and see you happy. She said, 'What about your happiness, Paul? Don't you deserve to be happy?' When it came time to go, Paul paid the check and the two left the restaurant together. Outside, they sat in Carolyn's car in the corner of the parking lot. And then they had sex in the car."
Oh. Okay.
Paul had met Carolyn in 1987 when she arrived at the Greenville school as a new teacher. She was 23. Paul was 38.
Paul. Oh my God. Okay.
And married with a teenage daughter.
Right.
The two carried on an affair for the year prior to Betty Jean's murder. Police checked out Paul's alibi and it was good. His times were just a little bit off, but his accounts of his whereabouts for the evening were accurate and corroborated by staff at Treetops and the bowling alley. A few days later, detectives called up Carolyn and asked her to come into the station for an interview.
Mm-hmm.
She was very nice and was happy to come in. Once there, one of the detectives asked her how she was. She said she was fine, and then stated she would not be speaking with them further without an attorney present.
I can't blame her for that. I
Nope.
wouldn't either.
Nope. Police found that a little suspicious, but they didn't have much to go on. Of course, here's the thing. If that's your right, and anyone who has any sense in the good Lord gave them to like have an attorney, you know what I'm saying?
But it's
Why
going
is
to
it
be
suspicious? But it's
yeah.
going to be suspicious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like everybody knows that polygraphs are bullshit, but it's suspicious if you won't take one.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if it's inconclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Anyway. Police speculated that Betty Jean was the target of a professional hit, a victim of a burglary gone wrong, or an attempted sex crime. But one by one, these theories were tossed for lack of evidence, and investigators were forced back to square one. By spring 1989, the case had stalled. Detectives interviewed and re-interviewed everyone connected to the case, and again came up with nothing new. In April, investigators started scrutinizing Carolyn's phone records, each and every call made by Carolyn from her Manhattan apartment during the critical period before and after the murder. One of the phone numbers on the list belonged to Vincent Parco, a private investigator from Manhattan. Carolyn made many phone calls to Vincent in the days leading up to and after the murder of Betty Jean.
That's super sus.
Weird.
Mm-hmm.
When detectives questioned Vincent, he told them that Carolyn was a former client of his, and she had hired him to check on an ex of hers. After he finished that job for her, Carolyn continued to call from time to time just to say hello.
Uh-huh. As you do.
As you do with your PI.
Hey.
You know, we're besties now.
Yeah. Just say. Yeah.
Investigators found this unusual. So they talked to him several times. And every time they talked to Vincent, he kind of changed his story a bit.
Uh-huh.
Eventually, Vincent decided to amend his original statement.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He said that shortly before Betty Jean was killed, Carolyn had asked him where she could get a gun. She said she wanted it for protection and was insistent. Carolyn also wanted a silencer for the weapon.
Okay, I was going to ask, because there was like 9 shots fired and they are in an apartment complex.
Except silencers don't actually fully silence a weapon. The way that they portray it in the movies is not real.
No?
No.
What sound does it make? Do you know?
I mean, I think it makes a gunshot sound. It's just a little bit muffled.
I see.
Vincent alleged that he refused to get the weapon for her at first, but he finally sold her a .25 caliber automatic fitted with a silencer for $2,500. The weapon was originally a gift Vincent had received from a friend. He later sent the gun over to another friend in Brooklyn, George Peters, who manufactured a silencer for it. When detectives visited George at his machine shop in Brooklyn, he admitted he made a silencer for the .25 caliber weapon. He also said that before he returned the Beretta to Vincent, he test fired the gun by putting a few rounds into a block of wood. When detectives later conducted a search of his workshop, they found a single spent .25 caliber shell casing underneath a table. Westchester County lab technicians performed a comparison between that casing and the casings found on the floor next to Betty Jean.
Mm-hmm.
The casings were a perfect match.
Yeah.
The .25 caliber Beretta automatic that Vincent gave to George to fit for a silencer that he later sold to Carolyn was the same weapon that was used to kill Betty Jean.
It's not very good PI work. No. Mm-mm.
More info gleaned from Carolyn's phone records. She made a call at 3:02 p.m. on January 15th to a gun store in New Jersey, Ray's Sports Shop. Detectives made a visit to Ray's and reviewed the purchase records for the day of Betty Jean's murder. They found several sales of .25 caliber ammunition. Men from the New Jersey area made 3 of the purchases. Only one was a woman, and she was from Long Island. Why would someone from Long Island drive all the way out to New Jersey to buy .25 caliber ammunition?
Right.
Her name was listed on the records as Lisa Katai, and according to store records, she used her New York State driver's license as an ID.
This is weird.
So they drove out to talk with her. And when she opened her door, she refused to talk to the detectives at first.
Uh-huh.
It was same, sister.
Yeah. Nope.
Like, nope. Homicide detectives, bye. But when she heard it was a homicide investigation, she decided to talk.
Okay.
Lisa said that she never bought ammunition at Ray's Sports Shop and had never even been there. She said that she worked at a summer job where her license was either lost or stolen. She had reported the loss and received a new license from the DMV. She also told them during her summer job, she worked with a woman named Carolyn Warmus.
Oh, here we go.
In January 1990, a Westchester County grand jury heard testimony and reviewed evidence in the Betty Jean Solomon murder case. On February 2nd, Carolyn Warmus was indicted for second-degree murder, and a warrant was issued for her arrest. A few days later, she surrendered in White Plains Court, where Westchester County DA's investigators took her into custody. At arraignment, Carolyn was ordered held on $250,000 bail and sent to county jail for processing.
Wow. Nothing of her, nothing with the husband yet, though.
Nope.
Okay. Interesting.
The New York tabloids went to town. They called Carolyn a sex tigress, a woman-obsessed, black widow, and various other things. They chased down every lead in the story, no matter how small, and the nightly news reported on legal developments by the hour. Everywhere in the media, people were talking about the Fatal Attraction murder case in Westchester.
Okay.
And that's the name that would stick for this case. Fatal Attraction had been released like 2 years prior to this murder.
Of course. Right. Okay.
Newsday said, quote, "It's beginning to read like a script for Twin Peaks." With Warmus's indictment in January, the curtains were pulled back on Westchester's posh bedroom communities, revealing the sordid drama that cinema is made of. The Toronto Star said, quote, "Carolyn Warmus, at times so demure, so alluring, was every bit as obsessive and lethal as her fictional counterpart. The real-life case is even harder to believe than the fiction."
Wow.
The case became even more sensationalized when it was rumored that Paul Solomon had sold story rights to HBO for an undisclosed sum of money. Ultimately, there would be not one, but 2 movies made about this case.
Seriously? Okay.
The 80s, man.
Man, what a time to be alive.
Carolyn Warmus was born January 8th, 1964 in Troy, Michigan, and grew up in Birmingham, an affluent suburb of Detroit. Her father Tom Warmus was a self-made multimillionaire who accumulated his fortune in the insurance business, founding the American Way Life Insurance Company of Southfield. In 1989, so at the time of this murder, Tom's assets were estimated at $150 million. He owned 8 jets, 2 yachts, estates in Michigan, Florida, Arizona, and New York, and 15 cars.
Holy shit. Okay.
In 1970, when Carolyn was 6, her mom, Elizabeth, filed for divorce from Tom, and after 2 years, won custody of Carolyn, then 8 years old, and her 2 younger siblings. Carolyn earned good grades, played basketball, and graduated from Seaholm High School in Birmingham. According to interviews with former classmates and acquaintances, as a teenager, Carolyn was liked well enough by her classmates. They thought she was kind and diligent, but she did not stand out academically or socially.
Okay.
Her younger sister Tracy did, though. Tracy was prettier and more popular. Tracy would throw parties, and Carolyn's friends would come.
Oh, burn. Jeez.
In 1981, she enrolled at the University of Michigan. In her sophomore year, she dated a pre-med teaching assistant for several months, Paul Lavin. Her classmates claimed that she took the relationship so seriously that she converted to Judaism.
Oh, okay.
But in December 1983, he broke it off with her and started dating another student, and those two got engaged.
Oh.
Carolyn didn't take it well and got a hold of the couple's unpublished telephone number in April of 1984 through subterfuge from a Michigan Bell employee.
Oh, Carolyn.
4 days later, she let herself into their apartment, and the police had to remove her.
Oh, no. She's got some serious self-esteem issues, and oh, no.
She also harassed Paul Lavin at his office.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, she left a note for Paul Lavin's fiance, and it started out, quote, "I really hope you enjoyed this past week of not being bothered by me, because now that I'm back from vacation, you can start worrying all over again."
Oh, no.
2 weeks before the couple's wedding in July 1984, they obtained a temporary restraining order. They were afraid she would crash their wedding ceremony or the reception.
Mm-hmm.
After the wedding, a judge signed a permanent order stating that Carolyn is, quote, "forever restrained and enjoined from communicating with the plaintiffs and from interfering with their rights to travel and rights to privacy."
This is giving Betty Broderick vibes.
Betty Broderick.
It's the same kind of thing. Lifetime movie made about her.
Oh,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're going to have to do that one for us.
Okay.
Put it on your list.
I will.
After graduating with an undergraduate degree in psychology and leaving Michigan, Carolyn moved to New York City, where she earned a master's degree in education from Teachers College at Columbia University.
Shit.
In 1985, Carolyn began dating a married bartender who lived in New Jersey. They didn't date for very long, but this is when Carolyn contacted Vincent Parco and asked him to investigate the bartender.
What? Okay.
Vincent taught a learning annex course to aspiring investigators. It was called, quote, "How to Get Anything on Anybody."
Okay.
He held his classes at Manhattan's bougie Birch Wathen School. He taught his students how to hide a video camera in a purse or a loose leaf notebook, and how to get unlisted phone numbers by researching reverse directories or registration records at the Board of Elections.
Okay.
Carolyn and Vincent came up with the idea of superimposing pictures of Carolyn in sexy poses on top of pictures of the bartender to be mailed to the bartender's wife.
Oh my gosh, Carolyn. Sister. Get it together.
Carolyn.
Oh.
Carolyn herself had a skill set in fraud and forgery. Right after graduating college, she went to work as a waitress at the Jukebox, a popular 1950s-style dance club in Royal Oak, Michigan. Carolyn was accused of running credit cards through an imprinting machine 2 or 3 times, using one imprint for the credit card customer and the others for customers who would pay in cash.
Oh.
I think all the Chaos Kids Club members are old enough to remember when credit cards were literally done on a physical
a carbon thing. Yeah.
a carbon, like triplicate, like a carbon machine. Yes, you remember?
So unsafe.
Did you ever have to use those? Did you ever have to use those? They were such a pain in the ass.
Yes. Every once in a while, like when the credit card like server would go down, it's like, well, we're going to pull this thing out. So unsafe.
Right?
Yeah.
So then she would pocket the cash for, right. So federal agents were brought in to investigate, but they couldn't find enough evidence to bring charges against her. Several years later, in 1987, a woman identifying herself as Carolyn Warmus was involved in an automobile accident. Carolyn wrote a letter to the other driver involved, claiming that she had been chaperoning a school trip in Washington on the day of the accident, so it couldn't have been her that she collided with.
Okay.
Her proof was a letter signed by a school official, Dr. Richard Sprague. Later, Sprague denied all of it. He didn't write that letter, and Carolyn was not on that school trip.
She forged a letter from a doctor.
Yes.
God, Caroline.
Carolyn got a job as a substitute teacher for school districts in Westchester County. And in September 1987, she met Paul Solomon when she started teaching at the Greenville School in Greenburgh. Her next assignment was at the Byram Hills School District in nearby Armonk, where she taught computer science. Betty Jean was an account executive with the Continental Credit Corporation in Harrison, New York, and she and Paul lived with their daughter Kristen in a condo in Greenburgh. Paul and Betty Jean's marriage was shaky. Paul already had 2 affairs before meeting Carolyn, and he was pretty sure Betty Jean had something going for several years with her former boss.
Okay.
A few months after they met, Paul and Carolyn started their affair. Carolyn had bushy blonde hair, big round eyes, and was in very good shape. She was 23.
Right.
Paul said she was hard to resist. Although she was possessive and unpredictable, he liked her outgoing, fun-loving personality.
Uh-huh.
They would meet up at her apartment above the comedy club, Catch a Rising Star on Manhattan's East Side, or hotel rooms, and sometimes Carolyn's car.
Yeah.
Carolyn went so far as to pretend she was a friend of the whole Solomon family, regularly giving Kristen gifts and even taking her on a skiing trip.
What?
Mm-hmm.
So Betty knew of Carolyn and thought they were just friends, or?
They're all just friends. She's just a coworker of Paul's.
That's fucking shady.
On the ski trip, Carolyn confided in Kristen that she was certain Betty Jean didn't like her very much. Kristen told Carolyn that wasn't true, but deep down, Kristen knew that Carolyn was right.
Mm-hmm.
In August 1988, when Paul had briefly stopped seeing Carolyn, she told one of her college friends that her relationship with Paul wasn't going how she wanted it to. She said she was thinking about hiring a private investigator to prove to Paul that Betty Jean really was cheating on him.
But he's cheating. What? Carolyn? Okay.
All these people are so
yes,
messy.
uh-huh.
So one of the reasons for heightened interest in Carolyn by investigators was her relentless pursuit of Paul. This was one of the flags that made them keep looking into her. In June 1989, after Paul had broken things off with Carolyn at the advice of his attorney, she followed him to Puerto Rico.
What?
Where he was vacationing with a new girlfriend,
Oh.
Barbara Baller.
Uh-huh.
Posing as a police officer, Carolyn called Barbara's family from the island, urging them to get Barbara to end her relationship with Paul.
Okay.
When she got back from Puerto Rico, Barbara sought an order of protection against Carolyn, which was granted. 6 months after Carolyn's indictment, the indictment was dismissed by a judge on the grounds that the jury was not informed that Vincent Parco had received full immunity from prosecution for selling Carolyn a silencer in exchange for his testimony for the prosecution about the sale.
Fuck.
The prosecution promptly obtained a new indictment, and Carolyn Warmus's trial began on February 14th, 1991.
Okay.
Her defense attorney, David L. Lewis, was president of the New York Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers and a director of the National Association of Criminal Lawyers. But more notably, he had been a trial lawyer for the former Panamanian dictator, General Manuel Noriega.
Jesus. Oh.
Well, Daddy Tom is paying for this.
Mm-hmm. Daddy Tom with his
In
6
the-
jets.
Yes, eight, Amber. He has 8.
Sorry.
Early in the trial, Carolyn appeared in a short, very tight miniskirt that had the press in a frenzy. A photo of Carolyn wearing a short skirt appeared in papers and magazines over the next few months. Carolyn came to court every day in designer clothes and came off as more of a model on a runway than a murder defendant.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
She, knowingly or not, played into the narrative of the femme fatale. She was the rich, spoiled heiress on trial.
Mm-hmm.
A young woman so obsessed with a man she was willing to kill to have him all for herself.
That's not a very good defense attorney, because they normally would advise her to like be,
Contrite
yes,
and conservative.
Yes, the way that Jodi Arias showed up to trial, like
Right.
now I have glasses and like a sweater vest. Yeah.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Carolyn strolled into court and sat at the defense table in the middle of 2 bodyguards. She barely acknowledged the packed courtroom. The presiding judge was known for his erratic behavior on the bench, and his antics were part of Westchester courtroom legend. He was also known as a defender of civil rights and would not tolerate any sort of prosecutorial error. A graduate of Harvard Law School and former mayor of the city of Rye, the judge had a long career in law that included services for the United Nations on the Subcommittee on Human Rights.
Wow.
He was considered a difficult judge by many of the attorneys who appeared in his court, with a reputation of being cranky and stubborn.
Oh, no.
Cops didn't much care for him either. Some accused him of letting David Lewis get away with doing whatever he liked and being taken by the infamous attorney. In the prosecutor's opening statement, he told the jury that Carolyn was driven by a, quote, consuming desire to possess Paul Solomon.
Yeah.
He admitted the evidence was circumstantial, but, quote, like pieces of a puzzle, would reveal a clear picture of the killer of Betty Jean Solomon, the defendant, Carolyn Warmus.
Mm-hmm.
The proof would include testimony from Vincent, as well as telephone records of a call on the day of the murder from Carolyn's number to the gun shop, where she would later purchase the bullets. As to the marriage between Paul and Betty Jean, the prosecutor conceded that it was rocky at times, both of them having affairs, but they were, quote, not ready to call it quits.
Okay.
In the summer of 1988, after Paul broke things off with Carolyn for a time, she wrote him notes, gave his daughter Kristen extravagant gifts, and told her college friend that Paul was the perfect person for her. The only obstacle was Betty Jean, and Carolyn had made it clear to her college friend that she would do anything to get Betty Jean out of the picture.
God. Wow.
David Lewis argued that the case wasn't about adultery and Carolyn wasn't a murderer simply because she was in love with a married man. There was no physical evidence placing Carolyn at the murder scene. Mm-hmm. David Lewis strongly suggested that Paul and PI Vincent Parco were the murderers and had framed Carolyn.
I mean, that maybe is plausible, except that he went off with with Barbara.
I mean, reasonable doubt.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, he could have been trying to get away with Barbara and just pinning it on Carolyn.
That's true.
That doesn't mean he wants to be with Carolyn.
That's true.
I mean, if you don't want to be with somebody, I mean, why would he pin it on somebody if he wanted to be with her?
That's true. All right. Okay.
I mean, 2 birds, 1 stone, right?
God, I guess. And we all know that men seem to think that murder is an easier way out than divorce.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2 officers who testified on Paul's mental state when they questioned him at the murder scene were cross-examined by Davis Lewis, who accused them of losing possible traces of evidence that might have pointed to other suspects. One of the trial reporters agreed, comparing the Greenberg police to the Keystone Cops. Mm-hmm. Apparently, Paul, who had admitted to rolling Betty Jean over when he found her, had been allowed to wash his hands, and the black glove that was pictured in a police photo of the scene had vanished and could not be located at the time of the trial.
Fuck.
The college friend Carolyn had confided in testified that she told him over the phone one night that, quote, with her money and Paul's family, they would have a perfect life together. Mm-hmm. Paul's daughter, Kristen, being Paul's family. She said that she would make sure she was with Paul. Several months after the killing, but before her arrest, Carolyn called her friend again and told him that she and Paul were going to end up together and that everything had been taken care of. The other woman was out of the way.
That's pretty damning evidence right there. That's not great.
No, it's not.
Mm-mm.
Kristen testified that in August 1988, while Paul was supposedly done with Carolyn, for a minute at least, Carolyn had shown up unannounced at the Solomons condo with 2 outfits and a bracelet for Kristen for her birthday. Kristen told the court, quote, "I was in shock. I was not frightened, but hesitant because I knew my mom didn't enjoy her in the house, and I was worried there would be words."
Mm-hmm.
After Betty Jean's murder, Carolyn had left notes on the door of their place, but had not seen Kristen. 2 weeks before Kristen's 16th birthday, she came home and found a Tiffany's box on the doorstep with diamond-studded earrings and a note inside, and the note was signed, "Love always, Carolyn."
Oh my God, she's really unwell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another PI took the stand, a guy named James Russo, who swore that Carolyn had come to him a few months before the murder looking for protection from a woman named Jean or Betty Jean, who was trying to hurt her family. When he suggested a bodyguard, Carolyn said she'd rather have a machine gun and silencer.
Whoa. Okay.
Prior to that, in the late summer and early fall of 1988, Carolyn called on him a few times. The first time she told him that her father's jet had been sabotaged in Michigan and that a woman was seen in the vicinity in the hangar. During her next visit, she told him that the same woman had hit her sister's car in Washington in a hit and run. As for the woman who took the initial 911 call, it turned out that the phone number had just been taken by Paul and Betty Jean. So the directory had not reflected yet the change at the time of the murder, which is why police went to the address and found nothing.
Right.
Also, the phone operator, not dispatcher, because there was no 911 service yet at the time, could never be certain if what she heard from the caller was, "He is trying to kill me," or "She is trying to kill me."
Right.
Of course, the call was always weird because who is making a call to the operator on a rotary phone while someone is shooting at you?
Mm-hmm.
Police suspected it was Carolyn who made the call in an attempt to throw investigators off. When Paul took the stand, he talked about his affair with Carolyn, his marriage, and the break he took from Carolyn during the summer. He testified to their conversation at dinner the night of Betty Jean's murder, where Carolyn told him it was difficult finding good people to date. He told her, quote, "I'd be so happy to dance at your wedding and see you happy." She asked him, "What about your happiness, Paul? Don't you deserve to be happy?" And he said, quote, "If anything happens to Betty Jean and me, I'd never get married anyway."
Oh.
He also admitted that after all that, he still went to her car in the parking lot and had sex with her.
Right. God.
For months after the murder, Paul had not seen Carolyn, and he started dating Barbara. After playing basketball in Manhattan in July 1989, he stopped by Carolyn's apartment. They got drinks at a bar nearby, and he asked her if she had anything to do with Betty Jean's death. She said she was happy he felt comfortable enough to ask her that, but said she had nothing to do with his wife's murder. Later in the conversation, he asked her again, and again she said no. He told the jury that he had absolutely believed her.
Yeah. I mean,
the prosecutor asked Paul about what happened with Barbara in Puerto Rico 8 months after the murder, about Carolyn showing up there, even though he had never even told her he was going anywhere. He claimed he was so frightened when she showed up on his vacation that he notified hotel security, called the Greenberg police, and left that night.
oh my God. Poor Barbara too. It's like, man,
Right?
don't.
But also, like, why would you date this guy? Because even if you think he didn't have anything to do with killing his wife, this guy is not
Yeah,
it.
he's not it, but
No.
yeah. Oh God. Wow.
David Lewis was brutal on his cross of Paul. He asked Paul how many affairs he had in the past, and Paul said, "Could you define the word affair, please?"
God.
Lewis says, "You know what adultery is." And Paul says, "During my marriage, the 19 years I was married, I have known a couple of other people, yes."
I have known a couple of other people. You piece of shit.
So Lewis shouted at Paul, "You're having trouble admitting to this. Is that the problem?" "You knew that by testifying, you would get immunity, right?" "Yes, that's what I was told," Paul replied. "And you would get immunity from being prosecuted as the killer of your wife, right?" David made sure the jury knew Paul had full immunity, but then he made him look like an absolute asshole when he asked, "You have a deal with Citadel Productions and HBO, right?"
Oh.
Paul was like visibly embarrassed and said, I believe so. Yes.
Uh-huh. I believe so. Define
asked-
deal.
Lewis asked if it were true that he received $25,000 up front, $100,000 if the movie's made, and $30,000 in consulting fees. And Paul's answer was, "I'm kind of interested in hearing this because I don't know the figures."
God, this douche.
And Lewis is like, "You signed the contract?" And Paul said, "I know I signed the contract." And Lewis shouted again, "You don't know the movie is called The Paul Solomon Story? You don't know that?"
Oh my God.
Paul was clearly even more embarrassed when he said, "My great hope was that it wouldn't be made."
Uh-huh. God, this guy.
So Lewis drove it all home. He said, "Let me get this straight now, Mr. Solomon. You signed a movie contract for money to not make a movie? Is that what you're telling us?"
God.
And the whole room like just erupted in laughter.
Well, yeah.
And Paul's credibility was just gone.
Yeah. What a dork. God, this guy sucks.
Vincent testified about selling Carolyn the gun. He also said that the day after the murder, Carolyn had called him to tell him that some teacher had been stabbed or bludgeoned 8 or 9 times.
Just something.
You know, something happened. I don't really know. The police had come to question her, and she had hidden the gun inside one of the posts of her brass bed.
Lay, lady, lay.
What?
Sorry. Sorry.
Lay upon my big brass bed.
Yes. Sorry.
That was amazing.
All of this is just so douchey.
It's all so dumb.
Uh-huh. Oh, boy.
So Vincent offered to pick up the gun the next day, but Carolyn told him it was gone. She'd thrown it off a parkway.
Mm-hmm.
Vincent admitted that he had a thing for Carolyn, but when she tried to come on to him, he rejected her.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, that's how it all went down.
Just like that.
Yeah. He also said that in August 1989, Carolyn asked him to check out a license plate and a telephone number. The phone number belonged to a woman Paul had started dating with the license. Well, the license was for her father's car. During the summer of 1989, Carolyn had denied any relationship with Paul and told Vincent she was out bowling with a bunch of teachers on the night of the murder.
She was out bowling too? Oh, that's right. They were together. Yeah, everyone's bowling.
Everyone was just bowling.
Everyone's just bowling.
The testimony for the defense began with trucker Anthony Gambino, who claimed Vincent had asked him to commit a murder in the summer of 1988. He had declined, of course. Another witness, Joseph Lysella, testified he had been in a men's room stall at a bowling alley.
What?
And overheard 2 men exchange $20,000 on the evening of January 15th, 1989, between 7:30 and 8:30 p.m. He said he heard the 2 men talk about having thrown a gun in the deepest part of the river. He never saw the men's faces, but they had called each other Vinny and Paul.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Carolyn's father, Tom Warmus, testified that Vincent had tried to shake him down for a substantial sum of money in the summer of 1989. Tom left the courtroom having never once looked at Carolyn.
Oh, shit. Daddy Tom?
Daddy Tom.
Is he turning on her?
I don't think he's turning on her, but I think the whole thing was beneath him. You know?
I see. Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone in this room is fucking ridiculous. I can't believe I'm in this room with you right now.
Okay. Oh my God.
The jury, The jury started deliberations on April 17th, 1991. After 4 days with no verdict, patience was wearing thin. On her way to court, reporters swarmed Carolyn in the lobby of the courthouse. As cameras flashed in her face, she let out an ear-piercing scream that echoed off the walls. When she sat at the defense table a few minutes later, she was crying loudly and laid her head on the table.
Oh.
"I've had it," she yelled to her lawyer. When questioned by the judge, she sobbed openly in court. "Somebody tripped me, Judge. I just can't take it. I'm afraid. Nobody cares about me."
No. This is the judge that has no fucks to give. Like, I think you're barking up the wrong tree, sister.
After 12 days of deliberation, the jury was deadlocked, 8 guilty, 4 not. The judge declared a mistrial.
Oh my God.
The jurors who held out for acquittal were unconvinced by the circumstantial nature of the evidence, and they had a hard time believing that a woman could have brutally pistol whipped Betty Jean as the murderer had allegedly done.
I mean, that's not true.
After the first trial, the Scarsdale School Board faced public pressure to remove Paul as a teacher since he admitted on the stand to being a serial cheater.
I mean, it's not a great look.
Not representing school district
No.
values. In September 1991, he was removed from classroom duties and assigned non-teaching duties. His removal was supposedly a group decision between him, the school board, and the principal of the elementary school. When the second trial began in January 1992, after an unsuccessful attempt by the state to have the judge replaced on the grounds that he was biased in favor of Carolyn, the prosecution trial team and strategy was identical, but the defense was not. Carolyn hired a new lawyer who was much more low-key and even-keeled than David Lewis.
Okay.
David Lewis filed a civil lawsuit against Tom Warmus for non-payment of his legal fees for defending his daughter in her first trial.
God.
Interest in the case was still high. The second trial got just as much coverage as the first. By this time, 2 made-for-TV movies were being made, and now they were just waiting for the trial to end so they could finish.
Can you guys finish so we can wrap up our movie, please? Thanks.
Yes.
God.
Paul wasn't looking too good for selling his rights to the story while the trial against his wife's alleged killer was still happening, and he still lived in the same apartment where the murder occurred, which a lot of people found odd, suspicious. When testimony began, Carolyn sat at the defense table with a pillow she brought every day so she could put her head down on the table and rest during the boring stuff, apparently.
Stop it. They allowed her to bring a pillow in? What the fuck is going on?
There were times she seemed distant with a faraway stare. There were no more designer clothes or the usual flippant demeanor. Instead, there was the feeling that things were not going quite so well for Carolyn. Carolyn's attorney planned to point to a possible frame job by Paul and Vincent, just like David had, but also attempt to create doubt on a number of other issues from the prosecutor in a broader plan of just doubt in general, and much less theatrics.
Right.
The prosecution was a repeat of the first trial until March 4th, when the Westchester Assistant District Attorney made a stunning announcement. He told the court that the black glove that had been photographed at the murder scene and later vanished had now been rediscovered.
It just turned up all these years later? Oh, okay.
In January, the prosecution had asked Paul to search again for evidence for the new trial, and he had delivered the glove, which he said he had found in a box in his bedroom closet.
What? Okay.
Forensic tests had turned up barely visible finger-shaped human bloodstains on top of the glove. The defense attorney cried foul, trial by ambush, he said, and the judge initially ruled the glove was inadmissible, but the prosecution had credit card and store records proving Carolyn had bought gloves at a store in Greenberg that matched the glove found at the Solomon place. The judge ruled the glove could be admitted as long as the prosecution had enough evidence that Carolyn had bought gloves just like them, which they did. The judge allowed the glove evidence, but ruled they could not include any reference to the tests showing the blood on the glove only might be human.
Okay. I mean, it's totally contaminated evidence at this point.
Right?
What are we doing? Okay.
But then Carolyn's attorney brought up the apparent bloodstains, trying to imply that Paul put blood on the glove that had been conveniently missing all that time, because when it was tested at the very beginning, before it went missing, no blood was detected on it then.
Okay.
Ultimately, Carolyn's defense the second time around was weak and did little to cast reasonable doubt. After 7 days of deliberations, the jury found Carolyn guilty of second-degree murder and illegal gun possession. The black glove was the most frequently cited reason for the verdict by the jurors after the trial. Carolyn stood and looked straight ahead while the verdict was read. She made no outward sign that she even heard it.
Wow.
Newsday said, quote, "Some in the crowded courtroom gasped with the reading of the verdict, but Warmus betrayed no emotion." She was immediately handcuffed at the defense table. The day of Carolyn's sentencing, her attorney announced a reward of $250,000 from her family for any information leading to the arrest of whoever was responsible for Betty Jean's murder.
Like it's done. It's been done. She's been arrested. She's what hot.
Betty Jean's sister, Joyce Green, called the reward bogus and said all the evidence pointed to Carolyn.
Mm-hmm.
She went on to say she hoped Carolyn would get a life sentence with no possibility of parole. At sentencing, Carolyn told the courtroom, quote, "I just spent time in jail for something I didn't do. It's very traumatic. I did not ever make a phone call to Ray's gun shop." She spoke quietly with her head down. The judge said he couldn't hear her. "I never made a phone call to Ray's gun shop. I never bought a gun or ever received a gun from Vincent Parco, and I never bought a black pair of gloves from Feline's basement. The most important thing of all, I did not kill Betty Jean Solomon. I had absolutely nothing to do with it." The judge asked her to speak up again while he moved some papers around. "I'm standing here before you, Judge Carey, devastated about being sentenced for a crime I did not commit, and I can only ask you for leniency because I am innocent." She wiped her eyes and tried to stand upright, but she looked despondent, like a lost little girl. Quote, "If I am guilty of anything at all, it was simply being foolish enough to believe the lies and promises that Paul Solomon made to me and allow myself to be manipulated by him." The judge called the murder, quote, "a hideous act, a most extreme, illegal, and wanton murder." He sentenced her to the maximum 25 years to life and a concurrent sentence for the gun possession charge of not less than 5 years nor more than 15.
Wow.
Betty Jean's sister was in the courtroom and told reporters, "To me, Carolyn Warmus is a very dangerous human being. There is no reason for what she did to my sister." Paul was not present at sentencing. Neither was Carolyn's father or anyone else from the Warmus family.
Wow. They just
On March
abandoned
15th,
her.
they just abandoned her. On March 15th, 1993, Carolyn's attorney filed a motion for a new trial, claiming that 2 pieces of key evidence had been withheld by the prosecution. The motion asserted that the prosecution knew that Paul Solomon had been having an affair with another woman, Barbara Ballard, 3 months before his wife was killed and not 4 months after the murder, as he had testified. The motion also stated that the prosecution had not disclosed to the jury the existence of a second glove apparently found outside the Greenberg apartment building, and that the prosecution had used the first glove to link Carolyn to the murder, but that the second glove would have acquitted her.
Okay.
The judge denied the motion. ABC aired the docudrama A Murderous Affair, the Carolyn Warmus story, in September of 1992. Paul allowed his name to be used and worked with the production company. 1 month later, CBS aired their own docudrama, The Danger of Love, the Carolyn Warmus story. It was loosely based on Paul's version of events, but he refused to have his name used in the CBS film.
Okay.
In 2004, Carolyn filed a federal lawsuit against the New York State Department of Corrections Services, claiming she was sexually abused by prison guards. She claimed she'd been raped and forced to trade sexual favors for basic privileges. One corrections officer, Lieutenant Glenn Looney, was arraigned in April of 2004 on a charge of second-degree sexual abuse, a misdemeanor. Carolyn's proof was a sample of the guard's semen that she had kept refrigerated in plastic.
What? Oh, okay. I mean, what? Okay.
In 2008, she received a $10,000 settlement from the Department of Corrections. In 2016, Carolyn sued a former lawyer for malpractice. She claimed her lawyer mishandled her appeal in part by not testing DNA and sought $80,000 in attorney's fees and an additional $320,000 in total compensation. Her attorney at that time said Carolyn was hoping to get out of prison so she could have surgery for a brain tumor. A CNN special report aired in August 2017, detailing Carolyn's belief that DNA on the black cashmere glove could exonerate her if the court were allow for testing. Paul declined to be interviewed for the show. Carolyn had her first parole hearing in January 2017 and was denied. She was denied parole again in July 2018, but was granted parole on June 17th, 2019, after serving 27 years.
Wow.
Apparently, she actually did have a life-threatening brain tumor that she has since had multiple surgeries for, leaving her face partially paralyzed.
Oh.
Since her release, Carolyn has made numerous appearances to speak about her case, having always insisted she was innocent. She continued to push for DNA testing on the evidence to prove that she was not the one who killed Betty Jean, and the district attorney in Westchester County agreed to the testing in May of 2021. 3 items: the glove, semen recovered from Betty Jean's body, and blood found in a tote bag belonging to Paul. But it's unclear if any of the testing has actually been done.
Wow.
And that is Carolyn Warmus in the murder of Betty Jean Solomon.
Do you think she did it?
I don't even know. I am so on the fence about it. I'm so on the fence about it, sister. I don't know.
I mean, she could have hired somebody to do it. It's not like she did it, right?
She could have hired somebody. She could have been framed by Paul.
Yeah. Paul sucks.
Paul sucks so hard.
Yeah.
Big time.
Wow. Sister, that was
a mamma
that
jamma.
was a
I'm sorry.
roller
I forgot to
coaster.
tell you. I forgot to tell you that I had a mamma jamma.
No, that's
this week.
okay. Mamma jamma. Fuck. Well, I hope that she, is able to go on with her life and have some sort of something. Yeah.
Yeah.
God. Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, are you ready for not a palate cleanser?
I mean, I'm ready to be the listener instead of the teller.
Okay,
How's
great.
that?
Okay. Well, we've got a lot of crossover stuff again.
Great.
I'm going to tell you.
I love that we do that. I do. I love that we do that.
I'm going to tell you about PI moms.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to start off in 2010 with Lucas Platt. He was living in New York City and was a reality TV showrunner. He gets an email about a new show idea regarding PIs out in the Bay Area. And the hook was that it would be PI moms.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. One mom, Denise, had worked in the legal world in different capacities. And in 2010, she had very young kiddos at home and was looking for a way to still have a career, but also make her own hours, be home with her kids, right?
So rather than sell unique skincare,
right,
she's going to become a PI.
Correct.
Got it.
She sees an ad for PIs posted by a firm called Butler and Associates that was owned by Chris Butler. Chris Butler had a background in law enforcement. Another mom, Amy, also applied for the PI job. She said that her first impression of Chris was that he was very professional and he definitely knew what he was doing. Okay. Amy had been working at the sheriff's department and she worked really long shifts, 12-hour shifts, and she missed a lot of important things with her kids and she didn't want that anymore. So she's like, I'm going to do this PI thing. Mm-hmm. It was mostly women in the office at Butler and Associates, with the exception of Chris Butler, the owner, and Carl Marino, who was the director of operations.
So it's Chris's Angels.
That's right. That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. That's what they compared themselves to. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Carl Marino was also former law enforcement. He was very attractive, and he had done some small parts on a few TV shows and was super interested in acting.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Chris and the PI moms make an appearance on the Dr. Phil show. And when Lucas Platt sees this clip, he decides to fly out to California to meet Chris and the PI moms, thinking this is going to be a really great reality show opportunity, right?
This is the real PI moms of the Bay Area.
That's right. So he goes out there and meets with them. The PI moms are definitely interested in the show, But they want to make sure that it's not like a Real Housewife situation with like fighting and petty bullshit. Like they
Right.
want to keep it classy, right?
Right. They want it to be more like Dog the Bounty Hunter.
God. Fucking Dog the Bounty Hunter. I cannot.
Did you see that guy who's famous for being Superman joined ICE?
No.
What's his name? He's a famous actor. He's most famous for his role as Superman at some point.
Mm-mm.
I can't remember his name now. He like joined ICE. There's like video footage of him like training. He's in his 50s now, so he's not like some young buck. He's literally just doing it to be. Yeah, it's like he's just doing it to like. It's anyway.
Gross.
Yeah.
Fuck that
Sorry.
guy.
So housewives. I mean, not housewives.
Not housewives, right? So Lucas finds the moms really funny and smart. He's like, this is going to be great. These ladies are great. This is going to be great. Teresa was one of the producers for PI Moms. She was the one who dealt with any and all like issues. Lifetime picks up the show for PI Moms of San Francisco, and Teresa is certain that this would turn into a real hit and that other cities would want to do their own PI Moms show, right?
Uh-huh.
They have a budget of $4 million for 8 episodes, which is like a good, healthy budget.
Mm-hmm.
So Lucas arrives to the Butler and Associates office in San Francisco, and immediately Carl Marino has his ear and lets him know that he thinks he should definitely be one of the main characters on the show.
Of course he does. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Particularly because he had been on TV before and already had a fan base.
Right.
He literally was like extras in a couple of things.
Right.
There's no...
He didn't even play Tarzan on a made-for-TV movie in the 90s.
No. God, fucking no.
Joe Lara.
Oh,
my
Lara.
God.
Mm-hmm. And Lucas is immediately getting like gross ego vibes, and he explained to Carl that the show is called PI Moms, and you aren't a mom.
Nope.
And the network has already decided that it's going to be Chris and the moms. So let's dial it down.
Take a step back, sir.
Yeah, sir. So this guy, Pete, he's a journalist, and he was offered to do a ride along with the PI Moms that he could use as like a story, right?
Right. PR. This is a PR.
That's right.
Stunt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this particular job was a woman who believed that her fiance was cheating on her, and she wanted to make sure that wasn't the case before she married him. So
yeah, nothing says we should get married than like louder than I should hire a PI just in case. You know?
Listen. I mean, fucking refer back to Paul. People can be sneaky fuckers, you know?
Just saying.
Yeah. So this is the case that Pete, the journalist, is given to do his ride along. He's in the minivan with the other PI moms. They're outside this couple's house, and within a few minutes, the guy pulls out of his driveway, and the PI moms follow him to a nice restaurant. And when he gets out of his car at the restaurant, a young brunette gets out of the passenger seat and kisses him in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a pretty open and shut case, right?
Mm-hmm.
But while Pete is back at his office writing up his piece about the PI moms, he gets an email from someone named Ronald Rutherford. And Ronald said that he is writing as a courtesy, saying that it would be a mistake to write his article about Chris Butler and the PI moms because Chris totally played you.
Okay.
The case that you did your ride along for was completely scripted, and he used paid actors. So,
do the PI moms know this?
I don't think so. Don't make me laugh because I'm in a weakened state.
Whatever, Miss on my big brass bed.
I didn't know that was going to trigger that. My abdominal wall is stripped. So he's like, yeah, you got played. The case that you did your ride along for, it was scripted. Pete is concerned and angry that he's been played. So he reaches out to Lucas about the show. And Lucas is concerned that Pete could potentially publish a story that says that the show was fake. So he decides to meet with Pete and tell him that the show is 100% real. Like, don't even worry about this. I don't know who Ronald Rutherford is, but the show is real, right?
Ronald Rutherford is the guy that didn't get to be in a main character.
The end. Yeah. So Pete shows Lucas the email from Ronald Rutherford, and Lucas right away thinks this is someone just trying to ruin the show.
Yeah.
Okay. So Lucas decides to combat this. They will just have to do some really good show topics and just blow it out of the water, right? Like, we're not going to be
Right.
ruined.
Right.
The first case to be filmed was the PI moms attempting to bust an unlicensed PI firm.
Oh,
Okay.
PI on PI action.
That's right. That's right.
This is serious.
Uh-huh. The PI moms are scheduled to meet up with the unlicensed PI people, and they are waiting with the film crew, and the guy isn't showing up. They're like waiting and waiting and waiting. There's a no-show. Finally, one of the PI moms calls him and he says, "I'm not coming. I've been tipped off." Uh-huh.
This sour grapes guy back at the office is literally sabotaging the moms.
It could be his fan base, Naomi. Okay, so Lucas is pissed. This was supposed to be their first episode, and now it's ruined. So Lucas calls that unlicensed PR firm and tells the guy that they were, in fact, going to be exposed, but asks him if he would just tell him who tipped him off.
Yeah.
And the fake PI doesn't know who it was, but he did agree to call the guy who tipped him off so that Lucas could hear his voice.
Uh-huh.
And when he hears the voice, it's very obvious that Ronald Rutherford was Carl Marino.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Fucking Carl.
Fucking Carl. So Lucas tells Chris, if you want this show to be successful, you need to get rid of Carl. Right?
Yeah,
Carl's gotta
Carl
go.
has got to go.
But Chris isn't like super concerned about Carl. He's like, oh no, it'll be fine, right? So Lifetime sends Carl a cease and desist letter. But
Where did you find this story?
Trainwreck.
Oh, okay. See, I have purposely not looked at any of those because you claimed them.
That's
so
right.
I
Dibs.
appreciate,
Mhm.
yeah, dibs.
Mhm. So yeah, they send the cease and desist. As soon as the show is underway, Chris starts acting weird, and he's like totally disconnected from the project. And then Pete, the journalist, gets another email from Ronald Rutherford. And this email says that Chris Butler is involved in some serious criminal activity. He says that Chris is selling large amounts of drugs, and it has been confiscated by the Contra Costa County Task Force.
What?
Yeah.
Carl, what are we doing?
Carl.
Carl was also a former police officer, right?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Mhm. Yep. The commander of the task force is taking the drugs from raids and then taking them to Chris to move, and Chris is giving them to me, but I am not a drug dealer and I don't want anything to do with this.
Well, then what was he doing giving them to you? What do we... this story makes no sense.
Correct. Pete's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, this is bullshit.
He's like,
Pete's got it. Pete has to have a bullshit detector if he's any kind of journalist.
Yeah, and he's kind of like a small town local journalist. He's like,
Right.
This has really gotten out of hand.
Right?
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to ride along with PI moms, and now I'm roped into this. Uh-huh.
Right.
So what started as a ride along for a reality show is now a fucking drug ring. So instead of telling Lucas again, Pete decides to correspond with Carl, and he tells him that he needs to go to the police. And Carl tells him that he didn't know who he could trust, and he asks Pete for his help.
Uh-huh.
So Pete reaches out to Daryl Jackson, who was a lieutenant at Contra Costa County. And Pete tells him what he knows and that he needs to speak to Carl Marino. This is wild. So Daryl makes arrangements for Carl to meet with him. Carl goes into the whole thing, and then pulls out a pound of marijuana and puts it on the desk in front of Carl. And he's like,
What?
Chris gave this to me to sell.
What? Who goes to meet with a police officer and hands over a pound of weed?
Carl Marino.
This ex-fucking cop wannabe actor. It's like the worst combo ever.
Uh-huh. So Daryl gets in contact with Special Agent Robert Blem.
Robert, unfortunate last name.
I know. So with Carl's help, he starts making a case against Chris Butler and this corrupt cop, right? They have Carl wear a wire. One of the conversations was weird. Chris was basically saying that his business was about to go under and that the show wouldn't happen unless they had a really good case, and that he didn't have the Hollywood good looks to fall back on like Carl did. It was weird. He was like, look at me, man. Fucking look at me. It was weird.
What kind of what kind of hold does Carl have on Chris?
I don't
This is
know.
Really strange.
It's really strange. I know. I mean, I went into this and it was like the point of no return, and it just kept getting weirder, you know?
Yes.
Then they get a really big case for the show. It was a missing girl. She was a 15-year-old runaway from East Bay. Her parents said she left with no warning and only took $20, her laptop, and some clothes. I know. The show gave access to all resources. They had all the PI moms on the case. They had helicopters in the air. Like Lifetime pulled out all the stops, like financially, right?
Right.
Then a call comes in to Lucas, and he is informed that Carl has found the missing girl.
What?
Uh-huh. It turns out that Chris had originally given the case to Carl before it was assigned to the PI moms, and that even after it was assigned to the PI moms, Carl continued to pursue it on his own, basically so he could be filmed reuniting the girl with her family and be on TV and be the hero.
Right.
So at this point, Lifetime tells Lucas, if anything else goes wrong, we're pulling the plug.
Fucking Carl.
So back to the wiretap situation. They hear Chris mention that he has 3 pounds of meth for sale.
What? That is so much meth.
That is so much meth.
Mm-hmm.
So they make arrangements for a buy, giving Carl $10,000 in cash and instruct him to go to the PI firm to meet with Chris. And as soon as the cash and the drugs are exchanged, an arrest is made.
What?
Carl sets him up. He's like, sure, I'll like peddle this for you. Here's some. He looks so confused.
I'm so confused.
Thank you. I was not the only one.
Wait, Chris actually sold him meth?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah. Sold him the meth.
Chris sold Carl 3 pounds of meth.
Yes.
What? So this was true the whole time?
Yeah.
No way.
Mm-hmm. The PI moms learn about this from the news.
The guy who hired them to be PIs and was training them to be PIs and got them this show and took them to Dr. Phil and had them under the wing. The whole time he actually did have a shady fucking drug ring going with some corrupt fucking officer in the county.
And that the show wasn't going to happen. Lifetime pulled the plug. Chris is being arrested. There is no PI firm.
So Carl was at the same time a total douchebag and he was right?
Yes. On May 4th, 2012, Chris pleads guilty to selling drugs, extortion, and robbery. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Carl was hailed as the hero for going undercover, and he went on to have a regular appearance on several shows.
That guy.
Fucking guy. Yep. I know.
What the fuck?
I don't know what else to say. That's PI moms.
That was wild.
I mean, was it though, or was it just unfortunate?
No, the whole thing was just wild.
You're like, what? Yeah.
That was crazy pants. Those poor PI moms. I hope they got someone else to help them be PIs.
I hope so too.
God. Sister.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We did it.
We sure did.
You did it. You made it.
Barely.
Barely, by the skin of your teeth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, she like almost pukes again.
Yep, I gotta go.
Okay, well, you know what? You guys know what to do. Go give us a rating. If you have an Apple product, go into the Apple Podcast and, give us a typey. Join the club. Go to patreon.com/yakety-yak, Crime, Wine, and Chaos. And $5 a month gets you a bonus episode every month. And the new episodes drop a day early every week.
That's right.
So go join the club. You can join the Patreon and you don't have to pay. You can see what we don't put behind the paywall and hang out with us over there too.
That's right.
So, go hang out there. Sister,
I
love you so much. I'm so glad you're starting to sort of feel a little bit better.
Thank you.
And this was so chaotic.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Crime, Wine, and Chaos is produced by 8th Direction Records. Artwork by Joshua M. Davis. Music by Jeremy Williams. If you would like to support the show, you can visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/Crime, Wine, and Chaos. Cheers!